a baseball game was played on Monday. There are, in all seriousness, we talk a lot about how games, it was so bad, there's nothing to take from it. I think there's a lot to discuss in this game, despite it being a 9-3 loss in August to a much better team. All right, so let's talk about it all today on Locked On Tigers.
You are Locked On Tigers, your daily Detroit Tigers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of Locked On Tigers. I'm, of course, your host, Scott Bentley. Today is Tuesday, August 8th, 2023. Thank you so much for making Locked On Tigers your first listen every single day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. All righty, everyone. Well, the Tigers did play a baseball game. The final score would be 9-3 in favor of the Minnesota Twins. This game was dreadful. Watching all 9 innings of this game, you should receive financial compensation. This was a brutal performance by your Detroit Tigers. I do, in all seriousness, I'm very honest about the times when games are so bad that there is nothing to take from them. I actually do think that there is a lot of discussion around this team. I think that or this game rather. I really do think that there's conversations to be had here. And if we have time at the end, we'll talk a little bit about the newest edition of the Detroit Tigers 40-man. The Tigers making another waiver claim, as they have been so fond of making waiver claims in the Scott Harris era. So I guess we'll have to start with Joey Wentz because that's the biggest reason that this number is so crooked. There's really no way around it. To be fair, the offense was awful too, right? Like we shouldn't just give the offense a pass just because Joey Wentz was struggled mightily in this ball game. This was a shutout for 26 outs, right? They with 2 outs in the bottom of the 9th, Nick Maton hit a homer. The offense did not show up either. But we will talk about the offense later in the show. I want to start with Joey Wentz because I have no idea how long this conversation is going to last. It could be 2 minutes. It could be 20 minutes. So I want to start with him, and then we'll kind of gauge where we're at the end of this conversation, and it'll determine how much time we have for everything else on the docket. So Joey Wentz, this is obviously not a good performance. 3 innings, 10 hits, 8 earned runs, 1 walk, 2 strikeouts, 2 home runs against. His ERA on the season is now 7. It's been very well documented and just seen his struggles this season. And it's fascinating because, and I'm not trying to be like an apologist. He hasn't been good. And I think he would tell you that just like anybody else would. So I'm not trying to like jump in front of arrows headed his way or anything. But last season, there was a lot of people that were legitimately excited about Joey Wentz, myself included. His September last year was phenomenal. And I know it's 1 month. It's like 5 or 6 starts that he made, but they were all really, really solid. And just his development path, he went, and we've kind of talked about this on the show before as well, went from pretty decent prospect when we first traded for him to injury, kind of forgotten about, came back, wasn't stellar, developed a cutter, turned into stellar. Then that translated into the last, 4 to 6 weeks of a major league product, right? And so a lot of people were really, really excited about Joey Wentz this year. Not that he was ever on the same level as like Mize Manning Scooble, but he really had kind of etched out a name for himself. And this season has been beyond dreadful. If you can go to Baseball Reference and just look at his game logs, just look at all of his starts. He's only had 1 outing, not like start necessarily, like he came out of the pen in this outing I'm about to refer to, and not like no innings limit, like whatever. Just he's only had 1 outing all season where he has not given up any runs. 1. And it just happened against the Marlins a week ago. So I'm pretty sure he has one quality start all season. I think he went 6 innings, 2 runs, or 6 innings, 1 earned run, maybe about a month ago. It was definitely in June. So, like, I mean, again, very clearly documented struggles. And so you try to find the differences between what was working in 2022 that hasn't been working in 2023. And the biggest difference, I tweeted this out or posted it out on X, whatever the heck the website's called now. I put this out there. His 4-seam fastball this year has not only been bad, it has legitimately been one of the worst pitches in the entire sport. If you use Baseball Savant, which I highly encourage anybody who is attempting to learn more about the game of baseball, period, if you're really into numbers and analytics, Baseball Savant is awesome. If you look at Baseball Savant and look at Joey Wentz's Baseball Savant page, you can see run value based on each individual pitch he throws. He has 4 pitches recorded this year: fastball, cutter, curveball, changeup, right? The 3 non-4-seam fastball pitches are really not bad. They're not fantastic. None of them are unbelievably amazing. But like the curveball has been a legitimate plus pitch according to run value on Baseball Savant's formula. And the cutter has been around 0. And the changeup has been around 0. All 3 of those pitches range from -3 to +3 as far as run value goes. If you're close to 0, you know, you're not talking about a super effective pitch. It probably gets hit hard sometimes, but it has the ability to get swings and misses or whatnot. All right. His 4-seam fastball going into this outing, before it got absolutely clobbered for 3 innings, was at a -13 run value. That is in the bottom 9 4-seam fastballs in the entire game of baseball. That's obviously dreadful. If you look at the batting average against it, it's like 350. If you look at the slug against it, it's in the mid-600s. You add those together, that's not even including like the walks that are drawn from it, which I can't imagine there's that many. I think everybody just crushes it. But if you just put those 2 together, you're talking about a makeshift OPS that is legitimately near 1,000. You're talking about like basically every time he throws his fastball, the batter in the batter's box, no matter how good or bad they are, turns into like prime Miguel Cabrera. So it's a problem. And last year, it was a plus pitch. It was not some wildly ineffective pitch. And the cutter that he added, we talk all the time about the fact that a cutter is a variation of a fastball. The cutter that he has tops out at like 86, 87 miles an hour. The fastball is like 92, 93. So you can't just like drop the 4-seam fastball and, I'll just use the cutter as my heater. It's not fast enough. An 86 mile an hour cutter is not going to set up your secondary pitches when your changeup is the same speed as your cutter. So he has a huge issue in front of him where he has nothing to set up his 3 average pitches. And average is not negative connotation, especially not when you have one of the worst pitchers in baseball that we're comparing it to. If you were about somewhere between -3 and +3 in run value between all 4 of your pitches, you'd be talking about around league average pitcher. I think that would be very welcomed to be added into this rotation and give you legitimate innings. So the issue Joey Wentz has, it's not, people just look at final lines and go like, oh, well, this dude just sucks and that's all there is to it. He's not just like everything he puts up there is just absolutely unusable. He has the ability, I mean, again, his career completely changed trajectory-wise when he added the cutter. It has the ability to be a plus pitch. But none of that matters if the only pitch you have that's above 88 miles an hour is basically unthrowable. because it's a guaranteed extra base hit. So that's kind of the quick rundown of that. We'll talk a little bit more about Wentz on the other side of the break. But first, I got to tell you all about our friends over at BetterHelp. Sometimes in life, we are faced with tough choices, and the path forward isn't always clear. Whether you're dealing with decisions around career, relationships, or anything else, therapy helps you stay connected with what you really want while you navigate life, so you can move forward with confidence and excitement. Trusting yourself to make decisions that align with your values is like anything. The more you practice it, the easier it gets. I'm very vocal about my experience with therapy. I've been going for over 5 years now, which seems super crazy. And when I first started therapy, we can get really deep for a second. I did not tell my therapist anything. That is not something I was comfortable with. It's not something that I wanted to do. I was paying this woman to basically just like watch paint dry with me every week for the 2 months. And then one day I finally realized this is just a waste of money. You might as well try it. Finally opened up a little bit, and now therapy, I end every show with going to therapy's dope for a reason. I think it's a life-changing thing that everybody should at least consider, if not try. So you just learn more about yourself. Even if your life is good and you're happy, can't hurt to learn more about yourself. So let therapy be your map with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOnMLB today and get 10% off of your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnMLB. All right, everybody, welcome back here. Segment 2 of Locked On Tigers. I appreciate y'all for tuning in, making us your first listen every single day. Shout out to the everydayers that do tune in every day, especially after we get clobbered 9-3 by the Minnesota Twins. If you haven't noticed, I'm definitely, again, I will not allow myself to get red in the face mad over losses in August when we're 14 games under 500. I don't think anyone should. But that being said, that doesn't mean that this is just the last 2 months don't matter either. So much matters, which is why when this is happening, you will still find me watching all 9 innings of these baseball games because there's a lot still to take from them. And sometimes there's not going to be. We're going to lose 15-0 at some point. There's going to be nothing to take from it. But I do think that there's actually a lot still to take from this game. So Joey Wentz, we talked about the fastball. Command is obviously part of that, but this goes beyond command. That's a big enough change where that's beyond just his command kind of it sucks now or whatnot. That it's more than that. And again, not that it's pinpoint, but you even see fastballs that are outside of the strike zone get absolutely crushed. One of the home runs in this game was a fastball that was up and away out of the zone, just absolutely cranked to right field from a right-handed hitter at that, Apo Taco. I want to bring up something that Jerry on Twitter, who's a fantastic follow, by the way. If you're a Tigers fan, you like numbers. His @ is at OPS Inheimer, which is also a very creative and funny Twitter app. But I mean, this is serious. This is one of the best follows, in my opinion, on Tigers Twitter. And he pointed out, I had tweeted something about Wentz's four-seam fastball, and he pointed out that last season, the Tigers' four-seam fastball run value as a team was a -20, but Wentz and Matt Manning's was plus 9.3. Those two had really, really good fastballs. 2023, the Tigers staff as a whole has a plus 7.1 run value on four-seam fastballs. Manning and Wentz combined -14 almost, -13.8. So in a season in which so many players have seen their four-seam fastball take huge steps in the right direction, for whatever reason, Matt Manning and Joey Wentz did the exact opposite. And that is why we bring up all the time how important fastball command is and fastball effectiveness is for Matt Manning. And it's looking to be like a rather similar conversation to Joey Wentz. What to do with him? I've been asked a lot. Look, I don't think it's healthy for anybody to just go out there and give up 8 runs every time out. I don't think they're going to be quick to send him down. Not that he's been Greg Maddux down in AAA, but there's only so much you get sent down, you do well, you come back up, you get rocked. That's beneficial. At some point, You got to prove that you're a major league pitcher and not just, I'm not a AAA pitcher. There's a huge difference between those two things. And that's where the crowd is thinned a lot in player development. Huge difference between not being a AAA player and actually being a Major League Baseball player. And you can only prove that you are a Major League Baseball player by going out there. Now, he's had a big enough sample size. Some people are just going to look at this and be like, he's not, dude. And I don't blame you for feeling that way. But it's not all, but so much of it is just based on one pitch that in the last 2 months of the season, if they want to keep working with him, maybe move him to the bullpen. He did well in Miami when he was coming out of the bullpen. It's his best outing of the year. Was being like the piggyback, opener, and then it gets passed to Joey Wentz. Maybe that is what you end up doing. But honestly, like weird as it sounds, I think you kind of just have to keep letting him face major league hitters to some extent. Maybe that's not starting anymore, but I don't know. If he gets sent down, I'm not going to be like, oh, this is so dumb. Like, sure, go for it. But some point you got to prove that you're a major leaguer, and that's by facing major leaguers. So we'll see what happens. Let's move on. That's the end of the Joey Wentz kind of rant that I had. So we can kind of go to the rest of the game here. The lineup in this game was interesting to me because the Tigers just cannot find a good leadoff hitter. When's the last time we had a good leadoff hitter? Was it Ian Kinsler? Probably, right? And even Ian Kinsler wasn't like the greatest leadoff hitter of all time by the time he had gotten to Detroit. He was a great setup man for that lineup, but I think in today's day and age, maybe he'd be more of a 2 or even a 5 hitter. But I think that's the last time. I can't think of anyone off the top of my head. Maybe I'm wrong, and so I'm sure somebody will point out anybody that I might be missing. But like this team has gone a long time without a legitimate leadoff hitter, and I think that the production they have gotten from the leadoff spot this year is pathetic. They tried Maton there. They've tried Badu there. They put McKinstry out there all the time. He had a really good May, and that's it. I mean, this is a long time without a legitimate leadoff threat in this lineup. And then Matt Vierling batting third. I'm sure that they saw something in the matchup that made sense to this. I'm not saying that this is like dumb or anything. Matt Vierling went 1 for 4. He has a 267 average, which is not bad. He has a 711 OPS. He doesn't walk, and he's not fond of extra base hits. So, I mean, that's a below league average OPS in your 3 spot. And like Torkelson has a 699. Not that he's like overwhelmingly deserving of being the 3 hitter either. He has been right back to square one, struggling since the All-Star break. And that's something that I feel like maybe I have not shed enough light on, or has kind of been overlooked to me, because I think there's been bigger storylines. But let's air it now. He's been right back to struggling ever since the All-Star break. That's like a decent, that's what, 2-3 weeks now? 3 weeks? That's a pretty legitimate sample size. And so I'm not like, oh, Vierling in the 3 spot, that's so dumb. Who else are we going to put there? That Matt Vierling's 711 OPS was the 3rd best OPS in this lineup. Riley Green should be the 2 hitter every night. Kerry Carpenter should be, well, I guess that makes Vierling the 4th best OPS on the team. Point remains, Kerry Carpenter should be in the top 4, probably. He batted 5th in this game for whatever reason. But like, I looked at it and I was like, well, that's weird. And then I was like, well, actually, I forget how bad this lineup is still. And here we are. I also want to talk about, let's talk a little bit about the offense, then we'll talk about the defensive side of things. We have to have an Alex Lange conversation yet again, which I'm not looking forward to, but we have to do. So let's get into the rest of the ball game here right after I tell y'all about our friends over at eBay Motors. For a championship team, it's all about making sure every player is a perfect fit, and it's the same when it comes to your vehicle. Every part needs to fit just right the first time around as well. You go to eBay Guaranteed Fit and make sure that your part fits right. You can look for the green check mark, and just add it to My Garage, and you will know that it will fit or your money back. Because just like in sports, confidence is the name of the game when you shop on eBay Motors. And now with over 122 million parts to choose from, you'll be back in the game in no time. After all, it's easy to bring home a win when the right part is guaranteed. So get the right parts, the right fit, and the right price on ebaymotors.com. Let's ride. eBay Guarantee Fit is only available to U.S. customers. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. All right, everybody, welcome back here. Segment 3, third and final segment of Locked On Tigers. Okay, so we've talked about the lineup. We spent a lot of time on Joey Wentz. I know it's a lot of time on a dude that has an ERA over 7, but I think that there's a lot of questions being asked about why he's still here, why he's struggling, et cetera, and I felt the need to go over it. Let's talk about, well, there's the offense in general. They didn't really show up today. Nick Maton hit a home run off a fastball. You know, I actually do like to see that just because early on in the season, it was he can't hit a breaking ball. And then he tried to hit breaking balls so much, then he stopped hitting fastballs too, and he just couldn't hit anything. So I'll just take any hits from Nick Maton at this point. He goes yard, obviously. His average is 177, which is, I'm not going to try to convince you, is good. The OPS is 612 on the season, which I'm also not going to convince you is good. So we're going to have a conversation about the Soto trade. We'll save that for the offseason. We'll do the offseason. We're going to have a lot of conversations, okay? Because we learned a lot this season. And I think was the goal of this season, to be fair. But we certainly learned a lot. And the fact that this team doesn't have a third baseman, period, is certainly something that we learned. And Nick I know he played second in this game, but the point still remains. Mattbierl played third. Is there anything else I want to talk about offensively? Kerry Carpenter, 2 knocks. Good to see. Average back over 270, OPS over 800. He continues to be good. He went through a little bit of a rough patch for a couple of weeks, a little bit. Slowed down a hair, and now it seems like in the last 2 or 3 games, he's kind of been back on the horse. That's good to see. I mean, after that, man, like Zach McKinstry with a hit, cool. Like his stats since June 1st are awful. Spencer Torkelson, 0 again, OPS back under 700. Like we're begging for some consistency here, and we have yet to see that even remotely from him. Akil Baddoo, 0. You want to talk about stats that have been really bad since June 1st? Certainly, Akil Baddoo is in that conversation as well. Riley Green with a couple of hits, which is nice to see because he actually struggled for like the first time all season. Over a series stretch. He struggled against Tampa, so nice to see him get a couple of knocks. That's really it. This offense didn't really show up to play. They got shut out for 26 outs, so not great. Let's talk about defensively. The only other thing I really want to talk about with defensively is that Mattbierl played third base, and this is something that back in March I wanted to see more of. And not that I ever think Mattbierl is going to be a plus defender at third base. Okay. I want to make that very clear. I'm not like putting my neck out there to be like Mattbierl is the third baseman of the future. I'm not even sure he's a starting outfielder on like a truly competitive team, but I think that this dude has tools, and like we've seen players come through this system before that have tools. And I'm desperate for a coaching staff that at the major league level that can help develop these tools. Mattbierl is an uber athlete that runs very fast. He has a decent arm, and he has the ability to play a bunch of different positions, wreak havoc on the base paths, make contact with the ball, even if it's not super hard or in the air, put the ball in play, make stuff happen. He has tools that you like and that you can build a solid major league player around. It's about giving him the opportunity to do that and developing him to be a more well-rounded player than he is currently. Again, it's sad because he's been one of the best hitters on the team. He is really not even particularly close to even a league average OPS at the moment. So back to the main point, ADHD moment there. Playing him at third, I have wanted to see because I just want to give people an opportunity. Again, we do not have a third baseman. Nick Maton, everyone's distracted about Nick Maton struggling at the plate. He has been one of the worst defensive third basemen in baseball as well. Okay? Like, not a whole lot going right, unfortunately, for Maton. Andy Ibanez is not a part of this team's future. Zach Short, not a long-term piece to this team. Like, Zach McKinstry, not a long-term piece. Like, they don't have anyone on this major league roster that you're like, oh yeah, this dude's going to be on this team and getting legitimate looks at third base for even next year, nonetheless, 2-3 years from now. So why not put Mattbierl, who has played third in the minors and even at the major league level for the Phillies as recently as last season, give him some reps there. He had one backhanded play that hit off the heel of his hand, bounced away, couldn't make a play. It was going to be a close call, even if he did make the play. But I'm frustrated it took until August. But I am glad that we are finally getting an opportunity to see, like, hey, this dude's tooled up and has the ability to be a pretty darn good player. Let's just put him in situations where he can actually utilize and show off some of those tools. And again, not saying he's ever going to be an everyday third baseman, but if he can be a utility guy that can play 6 different positions and have an OPS over 700 and be really fast, there's always going to be a spot for that on a Major League Baseball team, a good Major League Baseball team at that. Just want people to give opportunities, and I just want my promise that was given to this fan base of earmarking at-bats for young players to actually be upheld. And I think that Vierling at third falls under that umbrella, even if it's not like some revolutionary thing and he's going to be, like Brandon Inge over at third base. I know some people don't like Brandon Inge. He was good defensively, whether you like him or not. Okay, cool. Let's talk about Alex Lange. Alex Lange pitched in this ball game. I love the managerial decision to go to Alex Lange in this game. Low leverage, doesn't matter what you do because we're not winning. Send him out there against a decent offense that's not too good. And again, the lowest leverage situation you can possibly have is pretty much in a 9-0 ball game. Doesn't matter how many more runs you give up there. We're already down big. Okay. So he goes out there, he goes 1 inning, no hits. And that's the end of the good conversation. 1 run, 3 walks, 3 strikeouts. This was mind-boggling. This was a wild performance. Not a single ball was put in play. However, a run scored and he struck out the side. Like that is a testament to 2 things. One, the nastiness of his stuff, and also how just brutal his command is at the moment. He hit a batter as well. 3 walks, doesn't include the hit by pitch, that was with the bases loaded. That's what scored the run, right? So, in the lowest of leverage of situations, he is still, if you count a hit by pitch as a walk, just for the sake of argument, walked 4 batters in this game, 3 in his last outing, and 3 in the outing before that. That's 9 walks, and again, with a hit by pitch in his last 3 outings. His walk rate is through the roof. Okay, let's play a little game. You guys want to play a game? Let's play a game really quickly. That's just going to make people so happy. We're going to go to our favorite website, Baseball Reference, and we're going to look up Alex Lange. Okay. Actually, you know what? Let's go to Fangraphs so that we can see the percentages and not the per 9. Okay. Alex Lange, currently on the season, has a walk percentage of, drum roll please. Okay, that's walk per 9. He has a walk per 9 of 6.95, and I'm not sure that is with tonight mixed in there. He has a walk rate of 17.4%. Okay, now we're going to do a fun thing, and we're going to search up Gregory Soto. Okay, you might have heard of him before. He has a walk per 9 this year, this is hilarious, of 3.53. Which is obviously less, about half of what that is. His walk rate on the year is 9.4%. It's not fantastic, still worse than league average. But even if you go back to Gregory Soto's Tigers career, when everyone was furious about how often he was walking people and hitting batters and allowing base runners, Gregory Soto's walk percentage by year, 12%, 13.3%, 14.5%, 12.9%, and then this year, 9.4%. Basically, what I'm trying to say is Alex Lange this season has been, significantly, that's 2.5 to 3% worse than Gregory Soto's worst season when it comes to walking batters. That is your current closer? I think not. In the lowest leverage situation you possibly had, he still blew up. There's no way the next time the Tigers are winning by 1 or 2 runs in the 9th inning that you can possibly justify sending that dude out there. Hopefully he works on it. Hopefully he makes adjustments. Feder and whatnot work on him. And he can come back either in September if he has a really good, he turns it around once he gets given the 7th inning, or next season. If you want to reevaluate, that's fine. That's baseball. You're constantly adjusting, but you're constantly adjusting. And this is an adjustment you need to make. Okay? The rest of the bullpen really quickly, and then we'll let you all out of here. Bo Brisky, I thought, looked pretty solid. Didn't have a ton of swing and miss stuff. No strikeouts, but also no walks. The fastball command, he was riding a little high on the heater early in the outing, but by the end, I think he calmed down and looked pretty good. Tyler Holton, 1 inning of perfect ball. Let me know if you've heard that before. 1.91 ERA on the season now. Jason Foley, 1 inning, 1 hit, 1 walk, 2 strikeouts. Again, Foley, you got to use him because you don't want him to go 4 days without throwing. But I almost feel like the command issues he has had lately are because of being overworked. I would not mind giving Foley 3, 4, 5 days off, then giving him a low leverage situation to work back in it, and then giving him back to the high leverage. Now, you really can't afford to do that because we haven't had any off days in a while. You don't have any off days coming up, and he's arguably your highest leverage reliever at the moment. So you can't just be Lange you can't play it both ways. To contradict myself, you can't have Lange take him away from the highest leverage situation and just give Foley a bunch of time off. But his command has objectively been worse over the last 2 weeks now, maybe closer to a week and a half than it has been all season. But the stuff is still great and whatnot, so it's not an arm thing. It just might be a little bit of, the sinker's finding a little bit more of the zone lately. And then Zach Short, another shutout inning. He has a 1.8 ERA on the season. Shout out Zach Short. There you go. So there's analysis of a game in which a position player pitched and the Tigers were down 9 for a majority of it. Thanks for making Locked On Tigers your first listen every single day. Free and available wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team. Every day, shout out to the everydayers that do tune in every day. We'll be back tomorrow recapping Game 2 against the Minnesota Twins. I will be in attendance for this game, so we'll see how that goes. It's going to be Eduardo Rodriguez against Sonny Gray. Hopefully that's a decent pitching matchup. Eduardo Rodriguez's ERA on the season actually less than Sonny Gray, who 2 months into the year was a Cy Young candidate. I guess Erod was too. So yeah, should be a decent pitching matchup, hopefully. Fingers crossed, knock on wood. Hopefully it's not a 9-3 game again. And we'll talk about it tomorrow. Peace and love. Going to therapy's dope. I'll catch y'all then, baby. Go Tigers.